What's going on, everybody? Hey, I want to welcome you to another episode of Learning from the Experts, and I am super stoked about this one today. I actually have an expert on here with me. So here's the deal. I know how frustrating it is to waste countless hours sifting through wannabe experts who never actually help you in the end. Then to learn years later that there was a real expert who could have helped you 100 times faster than learning it on your own. I have created this podcast to save you time and money while taking you on a journey with me as I learn from real experts who can actually help you grow your business. My name is Colton Woods, and you're listening to Learning from the Experts. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey, I want to introduce to you Marie Larsen. I've known Marie for almost a year now. It's kind of crazy. Time's flying. But Marie Larsen is a podcasting expert. She has her own agency. She knows the stuff. If you want to publish, if you need to get your name out there, if you need to blow up your podcast, this is the girl that you need to talk to. And obviously she's related to Steve Larsen, so you know she's a killer. And she makes stuff happen for you. So she was actually behind Steve's podcast for quite a while, from the beginning stages until it was just massive. And then he had all these other crazy weird people come in to do it. Not crazy weird, but all these other people to do more niche down stuff. That was, anyway, but she was behind it and helped him blow up that podcast. So if you guys need your podcast blown up, she's the woman. So obviously, Marie, my listeners don't really know who you are. So I'm going to tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you get started in this? Kind of like, what's your story?
All right. Yo, what's up, everyone? My name is Marie Larsen. So funny story, as Colton was saying, I met him about a year ago at Funnel Hacking Live. And when I showed up to Funnel Hacking Live this past year in 2018, I was like the poorest of poor kids, right? Like I had no money to my name. In fact, I left Funnel Hacking Live with $78 to my name. And with that being said, I also had a coaching program that was $22,000 that I had to pay off in a year. I had school to pay for, and of course the day-to-day living circumstances as well. So I was pretty much in a pickle, and I had to really figure out really quickly what I was supposed to be doing. Now, my brother Steven he's a rock star. If you guys have not or know who Steve Larsen is, guys, be sure to check him out. Kid's a rock star. I'm not just saying that because I'm biased, but he really is super good at what he does. And so Steven reached out to me when I gotten home from serving a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And when I got home, I wanted to be a dentist my whole life, Colton.
Yeah. And
okay, here's the funny thing. I wanted to be a dentist really, really bad. But I got home and I realized that my mom had sat down and she pulled out a list and she's like, here are the people you're gonna have to talk to. Here's the stuff that you're gonna have to do. Here's the debt you're gonna go into. All this huge list of stuff, right? And I freaked out and I looked at that list and I was like, holy crap! I have no desire to go through and actually do that, and to go and do the same thing every single day for the rest of my life. Now I love my dentist. Thank you to my dentist, but I realized it was not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And as I was sitting there talking to my brother Steven and my dad, they looked at me and said, Marie, we don't want to tell you how to live your life, but you should look into business. And I was like, business? I was like, that's so stupid. Who does business? That's so dumb. And they both kind of chuckled. Both my dad and Steven are pretty known within their industries. And I started studying it out. And as Steven was walking away one day, he was like, oh, by the way, while you were gone for that past year and a half, there's this thing called ClickFunnels that happened and you should check it out. And so I was like, all right, man, whatever. If you want me to sell kitchenware, I guess I'll do that. He's like, it's not kitchenware, it's a software. And I was like, okay, whatever. Right. So that whole story wraps back into, again, I had started studying out business. I went to Funnel Hacking Live. I had no money. I had coaching that I had to pay for essentially really, really quickly, with not a lot of money to my name. And I promised myself that I would not pull out or go into debt over this at all. And that was a big deal for me. And so I really buckled down hard and started going into podcasting more. Now, I had done Steven's podcast for a really, really long time, and it was really fun. We had thought of ideas and strategies and things that we could do together and stuff like that. But it was just kind of, like my side gig, a little hustle. I had no, it really wasn't helping me too much. It was helping me get by with groceries pretty much. Like that was exactly what I was doing. And I realized that I wanted to figure out how I could make more money off of this. And I realized that there was a very profitable way to go about it as I was doing this with Steven. I realized that you could make like a ton of money off of podcasts if you actually went about it the right way. Now, Colton, I'll like shut up whenever you want me to, but
no, keep going. You're good.
The biggest thing is that Steven and I realized that as we were doing the podcast that he was getting a lot of face, right? That people were starting to see him on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Spotify, on YouTube, and it was going all over the place. It was all over, and his face was getting all over the place, and his audience started to grow, and it was slow and steady, and it kept growing, and it kept going, and we were freaking out. I remember when we hit our first, I don't know, it was like our first 20,000 downloads, and we were like freaking out. We're like, holy crap, like we did it, like we're in the clear. And now he's done hundreds of thousands of downloads for his stuff, and it's super fun. But the first time that happened, it was a big deal for us. And so push come to shove, I realized that there was a lot that I could be doing with podcasting in order to grow out these influencers in an authentic way where people can go through and find their value and use it within their own businesses. And so finding out those influencers, those people who are just born to do that, they're crucial to find, and a lot of them don't know that they have this voice inside of them that is just like ready to explode out. Right. But the key is publishing consistently and really getting your voice out there a lot. So in a long sense, Colton, to answer your question, like 6-7 minutes ago, I started doing podcasting out of a mode of survival for sure.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually really interesting you say that. Something that I've kind of realized or noticed about entrepreneurs, first off, whenever we get into like the corporate world or the 9-to-5, like our soul just kind of gets eaten away at us. Like it just sucks the soul out of us. I actually did a little bit. I was in the corporate world for a little bit, and I remember every day I felt like I was dying more and more. Like that's just the way it is. So for us entrepreneurs, like it's like we have a message or something that we got to take out to the world, and so we just got to get it out there.
Right.
That's awesome. You're helping them get it out there as much as possible. I actually one thing you said, Steve was everywhere. Now, how is that possible for Steve to be everywhere yet be working a job at ClickFunnels? Like that was not a 9-to-5 job. He was working quite a bit there. How is it possible that he was even doing that? Like,
so Steven is not a normal kid. We'll just put that out there. And if he listens to this, he'll just laugh at that. But I'm gonna say Steven was not working a 9-to-5. He was working his normal 9-to-5 by waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, doing as much as he could beforehand, do his 9-to-5, then come home, be with his family for an hour or two, and then work until like 1 o'clock in the morning. And that was his grind. That was his hustle. So he was pretty much working 2 9-to-5 jobs, just not directly 9-to-5.
Yeah, no, totally. I know Steve as well. Obviously I work with him. That dude, he can work. He's the man. So makes sense. So I wrote down a question. Now, how do you get people's value like out of them? How do you get their voice? When you do a podcast, like what's the most important part of doing a podcast? Like how do you make them so that they can be relatable? They can be, people want to listen to them, people want to follow them. Like, is that something that we can talk about or? Yeah,
for sure. I will tell you, first things first, guys, do not be the individual that tries to get into podcasting or into a YouTube channel or into a Facebook group or start building out something, does it for a month, see that there's not that many results, and then give up. The key is being consistent. Steven, we didn't see a ton of results until probably this past, past 6 months or so with his podcast. Guys, that was like like a year and a half of consistent publishing
Mm.
before it exploded to the point where Steven's doing super well. But that means, I mean, we were publishing for him 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes 4. It just really depended. But the more that we could push out the content and over deliver and show people that he wasn't going anywhere, that it wasn't just some on a whim decision that he was going to do it, that he was going to be consistent, that he was going to do it, and that people could know that if they wanted to, if they wanted that information or content from him, that he was the person to go to, right? That if they wanted information about funnels, that he would be the one that they would go to for sure. Now, a lot of people will get really upset because they'll get 3 episodes in and say, Maria, I only have 27 downloads. That stinks. And I'll just kind of laugh and say, no, that's normal. That's incredible, actually. If you can get that, that's awesome. I'm so happy for you. If you are a nobody with no following or anything like that, then you probably have your mom, your sister, and your cat listening to your podcast, and that's it, right? But you need to go through and really push out and over-deliver a ton. A lot of people, as I said before, get really frustrated a couple episodes in. They'll get to episode 13 or so, and they'll give up. If you guys have ever heard of Mark Stern or anyone like that within the funnel industry, he always raves about Marie's rule of 30, right? And I have this rule that when you get to episode 30, that's when your downloads actually start to double down. And the reason for that being is that if you can go through and consistently publish at least twice a week and get up to 30 episodes, then people will see that you're not going anywhere. And I'll give you an example. Economics, right? If you type into podcasts, onto your podcasting app, on iTunes or whatever, Apple Podcasts, on your phone and type in the word economics, there are going to be hundreds of different podcasts that show up. There will be so many that will show up. But the first one you'll see is one called Freakonomics. And then the other ones you'll see one that's done 2 episodes, one that's done 6 episodes, one that's done maybe like 15. And then you'll see Freakonomics, which has done hundreds and hundreds of episodes, I should say. Now, from my perspective as a person who's jumping on and really does not know that much about economics, I will jump on and I will look and see, okay, this one episode called Freakonomics has hundreds of episodes. This other one that's called Economics for People Who Have No Idea What Economics Even Means is going to be, that has 2 episodes on it. Which one am I going to listen to more, right? Which one am I actually going to listen to? I'm going to listen to one that has hundreds and hundreds of episodes on it because I know that I will be creating a relationship with those speakers that I don't want to lose. Someone that only has 2 episodes down, I'm not going to waste my time to go through and actually publish or listen to those 2 episodes as much, unless I know the people. But I'm not going to go through and trying to establish a relationship with those individuals because they're not worth my time, because I know that they're not going to be consistent with me. So why should I be consistent with them? So that's like a huge thing that I see, especially within the podcasting industry, that people give up so easily. And so why Steven has done so well is because you look at Alex Scharf and Russell Brunson, Steve Larsen, you look at all these people who have hundreds and hundreds of episodes that are high quality, that are good, that have amazing content and value. Of course I'm going to go through and listen to their stuff. Of course those are the people I'm going to choose over, some kid in his basement that has 2 episodes on his podcast. I'm not going to go establish a relationship with that person when I know that there is someone over here who is actually trying to provide content and value for me. Hopefully that makes sense.
No, yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for that. I think that totally makes sense. Lots of people, and I've noticed this too, like they do start out, they get something going, and then it's like I'm not really seeing any, return on investment on it. And then they give up. But what I think is so awesome about podcasting too is you do it once and it's out there.
Yeah.
And you don't have to re-record it all the time.
Nope.
And so Russell Brunson, Alex Scharf, those guys have hundreds of episodes and people can listen to them whenever they want. They're always there.
Yeah.
They don't have to redo them. I love that part about it.
Something that I'll also add in there, sorry, real quick.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Is that Russell often says, and it's one of my big things, is that stories sell, facts tell, right?
Yes.
And so when he says that, guys, if you go listen to any of the best podcasters out there, the top 10s, you'll go through and you'll start looking through them and you'll listen to them. And within the first little bit, you'll realize that they go through a pretty common structure, right? I was like that weird kid that really loved English and would rather write a 20-page paper than go through and, take a test. Right. And so I like really understand like structures really, really well. And
Okay.
so when I would go through and kind of research and figure out these podcasts, I was realizing that their structure was pretty common and similar. And that being said, what happened is that they would go through and they would establish two principles, right? On average, they have at least two principles within a podcast, or they hit one to two principles
Right.
or topics. And then after that, then they have an average of 2 to 3 stories per topic, right? And so each story is there to sell the topic more than just the topic itself, right? And I'll give you an example of that as well. As I was telling you my origin story, right? And I was going through and telling you, well, I wanted to be a dentist, but actually I realized I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. There were so many of you that were probably like, man, I realized there was a time that I was like trying to do something that I didn't want to do. Colton himself even jumped on this podcast and said, I was in corporate for a little bit and it killed me. There are so many people that relate to that. And instantly, because of that one topic, we all relate to it in our different aspects. Now, of course, our stories are not all the same, but the stories are relatable enough where it's going to sell even more. It's going to sell the topic where this topic of, oh my gosh, I can't do 9 to 5. Yeah, there's this one time that Colton did 9 to 5 and it sucked. There's this time that Steven did 9 to 5 and it sucked. There was this time that Marie did 9 to 5 and it sucked. And it's like, well, by the time we build out all these cases for this one point, we're going to sell that way faster than if someone just said, don't 9 to 5 suck. Yeah, I guess they suck. No, 9 to 5 suck because Colton has experience, Maria has experience, Steven has experience. So many of these people have experiences with it. That's what's going to sell the actual topic, not just the topic itself.
Man, that is awesome, guys. That is gold right there. If you were listening to that, you need to go back and re-listen to it because that is gold right there. And you'll notice a lot of interviews, even like I started out asking about your story, like you were just saying, a lot of interviews are that way because that is how everybody starts relating to you. And then you can,
and they'll keep listening.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh, I relate so well to this person. I have to keep listening. It's funny because Steve talks about starting your podcast and how you have to have your origin story as your first podcast. That's what I did on mine. Hopefully it was good, but that's totally what I did on mine. And just so I can help my listeners understand who I am and build a little bit of a credibility with them. So that's cool. You help people do that with, their podcasts as well. I've actually had a few podcasts just before this about changing customers' beliefs.
Okay.
And like, I don't know about you, but I think podcasts are such a great way for you to change the beliefs of your customers or to help them understand that maybe what the beliefs that they currently have may not be meeting their needs completely. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like about helping people just kill it on their podcasts and blowing them up that way?
Yep. So as far as going off of that, excuse me. Sorry, I'm like trying to get over a cold, so I'm looking in some cough drops.
Marie did like 4 like interviews yesterday, so I'm kind of pushing her a little bit more today to give me one more interview, but so she's got to throw in a cough drop real quick because I'm sure your throat's just wrecked. I can't even imagine. So
yeah, as far as things that I've seen with customers and how podcasts can affect that, guys, podcasts are a great way to do customer research. And I know that sounds really funny, but what I love about podcasting is there are so many reasons, but you can go through and take that content and push it out like crazy, right? And repurpose it and take it and get transcriptions and then go through and build out blog posts and then go out and build Facebook posts and Instagram posts and all these different things. And then by going through your stats, if you have any sort of social media stats, you can see what's converting really well. I will tell you as well, some little trick and tip that I use is that I go through and within the industries that I'm researching for, whether it's mine or for a client or something like that, topics that are converting really well already, go through and talk about those, right? And so I'll go and I'll jump into other industries and I'll see what blog posts for them are converting really well. I'll go see what topics are converting really well, what podcasts are converting really well, which episodes are doing super, super well. As soon as you can figure that out and see what people are already looking for and go do podcast episodes about that, that's going to spike like crazy. That's going to help your downloads like crazy because people are already researching for those.
That's awesome that you do that for your customers. I'm sure that is huge. They probably just love you for that. But now you mentioned that it went to different platforms. Can I just ask a quick question? How many platforms do you usually push to on a podcast? Like how many can you even push to?
I have done who was it? For one of my clients in the past, we got him up to 27 different platforms.
Wow.
And so there was a lot. That was using everything from WordPress to Spotify to SoundCloud to iHeartRadio to Google Play to you name it. Like we
Yeah.
had it on that platform. And so even now there are times where I'll go through and I'll hear someone say, yeah, there's this new platform coming out and it's called da 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 da. I'll be like, I wonder how I can get that out, get a podcast on that platform, right? No matter what it is, I'm always trying to figure out how to get stuff onto platforms. And the reason for that being is that people are really, really concise and I guess consistent, I should say,
Yeah.
with their social media platforms, right? Like I'm an Instagram and Facebook user through and through. Like I hate Twitter, I hate LinkedIn, I hate like all those things, but I go through and I publish to them because it's not about what I like. It's what my customers like. It's what people are going to listen to, on their desired platform, right?
Yeah.
So that being said, you need to make sure that you're publishing to as many different platforms as humanly possible. If you can go through and push them out to all these different platforms, boost up the SEO to all of them, right? Then all of a sudden you are going through and you are creating opportunity for people to find you, to share your stuff, to comment on your stuff, to go through and really hype it up for you rather than you go through and publish to one place, right? iTunes to this day is the number one podcasting platform, right? And it will be. But there are people who choose to listen on Anchor, and other people who choose to listen on Libsyn, and other people who choose to listen on, you name it, Spotify. And so that being said, you have to have your stuff onto all those different platforms if they're going to go through and you can find customers that way. They'll be your most loyal people, whatever it is. But in order to they're not going to go try and find you. You have to provide the opportunity where they can just find you easily, right?
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much for sharing that. I wanted to point that out because I don't think people realize the power that comes behind that and how you can click a button and all of these platforms instantly have your podcast or your episode, your content. I think that's so powerful. So
Yeah. And they
I
want
know,
a painless process, right? Like
yeah,
customers, marketing, the whole thing with marketing and with a good business in general is that you make it as painless as a process as humanly possible, right? Like
yeah,
you can't have it be this big thing where it's like, well, if you go through and do this and then jump through hoop this way, people are gonna give up by the time you ask them to move their right finger, right? And so they're not
yeah,
gonna go through and jump through hoops to find your stuff. I myself have gone through the process of where I wanted to go and purchase something, and just because it was a hard process, I gave up and went and bought something, bought it somewhere else. And so
yeah.
I have to make my processes, my availability as easy as possible for people, so that they can find me and that I'm easy to find and people can purchase from me easily.
That is huge. That is so huge. Thank you so much, Marie. I just want to say I've actually learned a lot from you myself, even with the podcasting stuff. I follow you on your Facebook group. I follow you your podcast as well, which if you guys aren't following her, you should jump on and start listening to her. And I really wanted to get you on here because I wanted to help, business owners, entrepreneurs know the power of podcasting and what it can do for them. And what's so cool is you take it like they can literally just record their voice, their episode, give it to you, and you just make it happen and make it go everywhere. And that's so cool. I like that. Sorry,
It's
did you have a comment on that?
No, it's way fun. I love it. I love being able to get their stuff, go through, edit, and make sure that it sounds, good, and then add in intros and outros and all
Mhm.
these little things. And then after that, I want it to be on every different, as many different platforms as we possibly can find that a podcast could be.
Yeah. And guys, so Marie's the expert at this. She can tell you what you need to do with the best equipment, like the times, everything. She knows where it's happening. Um, so if you guys are looking at getting any kind of content out there, podcasting, I would 100% suggest you talk to Marie because she can make it
Thankful.
happen for you. So I got
Thankful.
mad respect for you. And what I think is really cool too about you is you pushed through and made this happen. Like I love your story. I was there at Funnel Hacking Live with you, and I remember you going and signing up for the coaching program, and you were like, I don't know how I'm going to make this happen. But
I had
then you
no idea.
did. And look at you now. Like, this is awesome. Like, I think that just goes to show what it can do for you if you push through and you make things happen. You don't give up. So
It was not without a lot of temptation to give up, that's for sure. There were many times where I reached out to my brother, Steven, or Steve, or whatever people call him, and I said, man, I think I'm done. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is really hard. And he looked at me and said, well, Marie, what else are you going to do? You know, like, what else would you do? He's like, lean in, and, you know, if you weren't going to do this, what else would you do? And I said, I don't know. And he was like, you go back to a 9 to 5. That's what you do. And I was like, crap, you're right. I was like, dang it, I'm not going to do that. And he's like, all right, well then lean in and make it work, Marie. And so I am a 22-year-old college kid who has thousands of dollars of coaching under her belt.
that's so cool.
Not from school, plus school as well, but you know, and I have learned so much in this last little bit. It's been life-changing. This year has been life-changing for me. Extremely hard. You know, I'm trying to balance everything from homework to client work. And there comes moments where I'm like, shoot, I have a 20-page paper due tonight, or I have client work that's due tonight. Which one do I do? I always choose the client, but I have figured out little hacks to go through and do my homework too. And if I get kicked out for this, I'm sorry, but pretty much what I do is that I'll go through and I'll take my microphone, my podcasting mic. I'll go through and read a few topics that I have to talk about, right, in my paper, and I'll go through and I'll record for 30 minutes straight, and then I will get a transcription of it, and then I will take that transcription, edit it, and turn in my paper. So something that takes people 2.5 weeks to write, it takes me 2.5 hours. So
that is so cool.
Yeah, not probably the best thing, but you know, I'm just trying to be smart about it.
No, yeah. You know, what's funny is I was actually telling my wife the other day, I was like, holy cow, I just did a 4,000 word podcast in like 30 minutes. And that would have taken me forever in school to write. Like, I'm not the best writer. I hated writing. I was not an English guy. I was totally not good at that stuff. But I just did like a 4,500 word podcast that ended up turning into a transcription that I totally could have done that for like papers back in college. Oh yeah. I wish I would have known that hack back then, dang it.
Sorry.
But that's so cool. I am amazed at your story, and I think it's super cool. And like, I think back about my college days and not having any money. I had to figure out something to do. And that's when I started my repair business. I don't know if you even knew that, but
Oh yeah, I knew about your repair business.
And that got me through, school. And it's funny, like, if you look through a lot of entrepreneurs, they find something they enjoy, they do it, and then they become an expert in it, and then they start selling their services in that area for being an expert, and then they're just killing it. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
The key is finding the need and then becoming the expert for the people.
Yes, exactly. And then defining the problem as well as you can. Yeah. Well, awesome, Marie. Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much for that. Are there any other, as Steve Larsen likes to say it, truth nukes that you want to drop for us today?
One last truth nuke I will put out there for listeners. If you guys are looking to start a podcast, there are several things that you need to get started. One being a good graphic, right? And I can refer you to my graphic designer or to someone else that you might have. That's fine too. So that's really important. You need a hosting service. You're going to also need an intro and outro. Now, there are podcasts out there that don't have intros and outros, and that's fine. However, the ones that convert really well and do super, super well actually have call to actions placed within them, right? And so your intro should have steps that go through and explain who you are and kind of like your credibility stance on everything. Then you should go through and make sure that you have established some sort of curiosity, some sort of question, right? As you have established a goal and said, hey, like, join me as I establish a 7-figure business or something like that. And people are going to be like, oh wow, well, how's she going to do that? And people are wondering, how is she going to do it, right? Literally ask the question for them, because people are going to jump on and they're going to say, who is this person? Why am I listening to him? Should I turn him off? Should I keep listening to him? Within the first couple seconds. So if you answer all those questions for them, then they'll keep listening to you, right? Because they're intrigued on how the heck you're deciding, or how you're going about and building out a business, how you're going out and building how, different aspects of your industry. And then make sure as well in your outro that you go through and you ask people to rate and subscribe. If you don't ask your people, they're not going to do it. So ask your people to rate and subscribe. And then the other thing is to have some sort of call to action. Do you want me to speak in your mastermind? Go to da-da-da.com. Do you want a free t-shirt? Go to da-da-da.com. Do you have another question for the podcast? Go to Facebook group da-da-da-da-da, right? And go through and really make sure that you have places where you can direct people. If you're not directing your people, then you just have a nice podcast. But if you can go through and have a place where you're actually providing an opportunity for people to go somewhere, then you actually just might make some money off of it. So
yeah, that's pretty awesome. Well, speaking of that, you guys, I'm going to have her on learningfromtheexperts.com. She will be one of the experts that will be listed there. So you can go and kind of find out a little bit more about her services. But other than that, Marie, where can people find you? Like what's the best place?
Yeah, the best place to find me is probably my Facebook group, which is called Profitable Podcasting Strategies for Entrepreneurs. I know it's a mouthful, but definitely getting those SEO words in there. But definitely check me out there, or Facebook in general, or Instagram as well. And I can shoot all of those over to you guys. I'm sure Colton has a place to put all of that, whether a blog or not. But I can shoot all of that, and you guys can definitely check that out there as well.
Yeah. And that'll be awesome. And I think what's your podcast name again? Is it The Audio Expert?
The Audio Entrepreneur.
The Audio Entrepreneur. I'm in the industry of Russell Brunson. Everything is experts. So I'm like, I just assumed it was the audio expert. You know what I mean? But
I should have. Yep.
The Audio Entrepreneur. That's right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Marie, for being on here, and look forward to people getting to know you a little bit more, and, just killing it with their podcast through your service. So thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much, Colin. It was a real pleasure. Really appreciate it.
Are you looking to jumpstart your business by learning or getting help from the real experts? Go to learningfromtheexperts.com to find pre-approved experts that I've handpicked for you. Please don't forget to let me know how I'm doing by subscribing, rating, and leaving feedback.